me start off with you, Daniel Ohene Aidoo, who's project manager, cities and habitats. And this one we've been asking that question. We've asked that question over and over again about the need to get a house and make it and turn it into a home. But for many people, the first step is how to get the house. Some have even asked the question, where do I start from? Because this whole dream of a house seems far away from many of us because of even the prices and how much we earn as a people. Where do we start from?
Well, thank you very much, Winston. This question is almost like one which comes up every now and then. And I remember 2 years or so ago, I was on Evans's program, and we're discussing similar, we're having similar discussions. I was saying that, look, the way governments or successive governments have gone, with the issue of housing, it's not sustainable. It was time we turned to look critically at the social way of providing housing. I remember saying that very clearly. And you can see that, government have started projects, housing projects upon projects and upon projects, and we haven't really seen much, much about it. Now, coming back to this question you are asking, I believe that, my philosophy is that whatever your income is, if you set your mind to do something for yourself, you can do it. Yes. Beginning this New Accra City project or the planned cities extension, we have seen people who sell, who trade in the markets. We have seen teachers. We have seen the middle class come up. And sometimes you wonder, someone starts to sign up for a 2-bedroom house, semi-detached, then ends up, a year later upgrades it to 2-bedroom detached, a year later upgrades it to a 3-bedroom detached. And that person is, she's virtually cool to move in now. You see, so you have to, it starts with your decision.
Okay.
There are things that we spend our monies on. Every now and then. Some like to do very good parties. Some like to do very good funerals. Someone says that money comes for spend. As long as the money is sitting down, if you don't have any use for it, the money will dictate how you have to use it or what you need to use it for. So you need to just decide whatever your income is. Once you have made that decision, now search for yourself the type of housing based on that income, the type of house or land you want. Location matters because location will, there are a couple of factors that determine what the price will be. Location is one, and the services around the area, and a couple of other factors.
Okay. Let me bring Nanekua in. Nanekua,
Yes.
you're an architect. But the question really is, look, the average salary within the public sector in Ghana is 3,000. You have to pay bills. You have to do take care of the home. Where do you start from?
Pay fees.
Pay fees,
Yes.
and transport yourself to work. You have to eat. At the end of the day, you've spent basically everything.
Yes.
So where do they go?
In fact, it's interesting that your first reference was for public sector. But I want to believe that far beyond public sector, almost every Ghanaian is facing similar challenges.
Sure.
Now, for me, a few weeks ago at a different forum, one thing I think I try to bring up, and I think we should start thinking about, is the concept of affordability, or what we call affordable housing. as against social housing. And it's interesting that my brother Daniel brought up this concept. Because when you think about affordable housing, what does that imply? It implies the end user, what they can afford.
Yeah.
And so the work and the responsibility now sits with you having the ability to actually afford the iron rods, the cement, and the so forth. But when you change that expression to social housing, where does the responsibility go?
Tell me.
Yes, it goes to the states.
Yeah.
Where is the state in this conversation? Why are ordinary Ghanaians having to battle with this challenge? Because the opportunities have not been created. And so a developer like Mr. Daniel Ohene here is trying to do or create something to take care of Ghanaians. Where is the state in all this? In most civilized societies, or let me not use that, in other societies, provision has been made to the extent that you can start life you can start life in a more affordable way, for lack of a better word, and take your time to prepare towards, building a house. Why are you starting to think about building the house immediately you start work? That's where we are now as Ghanaians. And now you have to think about the price of cement. The person whose salary is 3,000, why are they having to think about the price of cement, the price of iron rods, when they have to take out all the other expenses of life? Because there's nothing else for you. So you have to immediately start thinking about building something for yourself. I think the conversation should start hitting on where the state's responsibility is in providing this human rights of shelter for its citizens. Is very important.
So let's start. I want to build that house. Mm-hmm. First of all, what should be the kind of house that I think about building? Because we're talking about the issues of finances, but of course for those who have money, mm-hmm. But for somebody who say the ordinary man thinking about building, what should be his consideration? Go for his dream house, mm-hmm. or maybe start little by mm-hmm. little. Yes, Anika.
Yes. So I would advise you start or you do a design that you can phase out. There's starting a construction and there's completing a construction, which tends to be the challenge for a lot of mm-hmm. Buildings, and that's why you see so many uncompleted structures, because people started with the intention of building their dream home and possibly weren't able to accomplish all that. As a starter up for life, I mean, a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. These days we have very intelligent ways of designing where you can actually add on as your pockets also grows, so that at every point in time you have a decent and dignified accommodation. That's what's important, that you can start and you can finish. One of the ways people should probably start thinking about is coming together and either as cooperatives, or if not as cooperatives, you and 2 of your friends can purchase one land. And these days we have very, very, like I said, very, very interesting ways of, designing to fit. You have everything you need, and the 3 of you can share this land. At the end of the day, you are sure of who your neighbor is, which can also be the next set of challenges. And that's the reason why, for example, we always advise, if you can go to a place like Mr. Daniel Ohene Aidoo's place, you know there won't be a church coming up next door in the near future, because the community is already designed to cater for certain things, and facilities are available. So yes, for this, I would say start small. Start with something you can start and finish. That's the important thing. Start and finish, so you can live comfortably and in a dignified manner.
I bring you, Daniel. She's talked about start with something you can finish. What's that thing you can finish?
Right. So, Winston, you see, it is said, cut your coat according to your size or cloth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you take your income. If you cannot build right away, get a piece of land that you think is affordable. I mean, that you can, if I say affordable, something that you can afford, maybe to pay in a few months, in a year or two, you plan, way ahead. Then you can have a design that you can expand. For instance, for the new Accra city, virtually all our buildings are expandable. So if it's 1 bedroom, it's expandable to 2 bedrooms. If it's 2 bedrooms, it's expandable to 3 bedrooms, whether detached or semi-detached, so that you can phase out your project. That's how you go about it. She mentioned this cooperative. Cities and Habitats nurtured a housing cooperative. I mean, we have been here to even talk about it a few times. We call it the Radiant Way Housing Cooperative. And it is interestingly there's a new product that we are coming up with, I won't mention now, but it is giving a platform for a lot of people who otherwise would not be able to buy a whole house or even land. So you can come together to own a certain percentage, right, of the house, either solely or jointly. In that process, you realize that before you realize, you have a home.
Okay.
Because you can roll, that investment or that purchase, that buy that you have made. Eventually, before you realize, you have a home. When we started with rent to own, a lot of people, some people said, hey, how is this thing going to be? How is this now? Close to about 150 sign-ups minus, those that when they started getting the haircuts and other things, they started having challenges. But if you put together, even those that have signed up for lands, those that have done lands and are building, there's a community of close to 350. That is huge in a space of 2.5 years. You understand? So there are opportunities. People must, be aware. That is why I believe that a platform like the JoyNews Habitat Fair, is always good, because then it brings together some of these opportunities. It sells out some of these opportunities for people who do not know to know, so they can buy in. So start small and then gradually build. You can, if you have bought a land and you have one foundation, you have built a foundation that has one room, a single room on it, you can expand, without necessarily waiting, because every now and then prices of materials are going up. If you would, I would just zoom in a little bit, just touch a little bit on this cement issue. When I heard of it, I'm like, wow, this is long overdue. We are talking about state involvement in providing housing, regulating some of these commodities, that are key to the housing thing. It's long overdue. Now we're talking about cement. Why not iron rods? Because I'm like, being in the industry, I know how it feels, because you start building or you start buying cement from 2 years ago from 28 cedis. Now you are buying on the average between 95 and 105 Ghana cedis a bag. You get it? So the one that is not buying or developing within a real estate context or community, and an individual, you just want to, you have some land somewhere you want to develop, you cannot afford the cement, you cannot afford certain things. So then the state, this thing should have been done and planned. It's too long overdue. So for some of us, when I heard, I said, Katie, live long and be healthy. Because, it's something that it's killing a lot of people who, young guys who have come out of school, maybe they're making some small money, they want to develop and they cannot. The salaries, 80% of public sector, the last year or 2 years, the statistician gave us the figures, more than 80% of people in the public sector earn less than 3,000 Ghana cedis a month. More than 80%. And we know that the public sector or government employs, is the biggest employer.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the deficit. Now we're talking about 2 years ago, we're talking about 2 million. It's not 2 million.
Yeah, but before I get to the Nakia, for the attempt to regulate cement prices,
right,
all the producers are asking for is engagement. You don't prepare a law without engaging the people who will be affected by it. So you don't even know, you may not know what it is they're going through.
Right.
Then you come back and say, this is the law. Go according to it. Don't you think that it would have been important to engage them even before the law?
Of course, that is necessary. I heard the minister say that he has tried to do so. I don't know the level of engagement that he did, so I wouldn't want to comment so much. But that is, it's a normal thing to do. And of course, by extension, even to the developers as well, because we are part of the chain, right? Government is, the developers and other consumers are part of the chain. The building thing is so huge.
It is.
It's so huge. And the earlier government starts doing something about it, the better. Okay. I would say, if we're doing for oil, if we're doing for telecoms, if we're doing for what? Other products. Building is every day. Sometimes we complain about there's no money. Winston, there are, you can count over 5,000 block factories just within the Ningo Pram enclave. 5,000, more than 5,000 block factories, right? And every day you see people build. Every day you see sand and stones being, transported.
Sure.
Right? So it is something that we consume on a daily basis, right? And it impacts on people's, their income, how much you can keep to buy food, to buy water, etc., etc. So it's okay if government would achieve that. It's going to help the housing thing that we do. And these people that we are talking about, how do you start? Someone has a small land, a piece of plot, wants to buy. How does he start? He's going to start by calculating the number of bags the person can use for foundation. Just maybe 13 by 14, 14 by 14, or 12 by whatever room size, just to get a single room, maybe get an external bath or toilet, right? So it's good. The conversation is on. I hope that it will, get to its logical conclusion.
Okay.
But you can always start somewhere. The bottom line.
Yes, let's bring Nakia. You wanted to make a point.
Yeah, slightly off this, but I think it's also important to note that when starting, especially when you don't have so much, the instinct is to avoid professionals for fear of fees you'll be charged and all kinds of things. But actually, it's when you don't have that you need us the most. Yes. Because what goes into designing efficiently and functionally so that your budgets can afford what you're looking for. It's only the professionals that can help you with this. A lot of people find themselves in other spaces using other providers. That in the end comes back to cost them so much more. And we've seen this too many times.
Okay.
Too many times where the one that doesn't have the money is saddled with designs and specifications that end up, bringing everything, to the ground or exploding the budgets beyond their capacity. So it's important. Don't run away from us. In fact, it is when you don't have money that you need us even more to make sense of what it is you want to do.
Some run away because of the charges. But let me ask you this. Now that you've talked, you both talked about, start small. Nakia, I want to find out from you. You're an architect. I want to find out from you. So you're talking about 2 bedrooms, so you could
Yeah.
probably start with 2. The average 2-bedroom house, average, I mean, I've gone for average. How much is it likely to cost you to build? Okay, Daniel has gone for his phone. He's coming to do the calculation.
Yes, you have to do a lot of calculation. So typically we will even separate the costs between the shell and core, and then your finishes.
Okay.
As for the shell and core, it's pretty straightforward. You know, your foundation, well, now that we are talking about prices flying from here to there, it's something else, but shell and core. And then finishes, that's where you can, it's really varies from person to person. We have, let's say, going rates per square meter. If you want to do a 2-bedroom house, maybe 80 square meters, 60 to 80. I don't know how many square meters you use for your 2 bedrooms, but I think around 80 is portable for your living room, the 2 bedrooms, the kitchen, your bathroom. And then try to multiply. Unfortunately, we use dollars actually.
Okay.
We use dollars for the rates because then no matter how the city does its tricks, you can still project. So this is purely estimating. Even when clients ask us, we try not to give a figure yet because a lot goes into actually defining that. So as an estimate, I know from the government side for the affordability, they were looking at some point around $400 per square meter.
Okay.
And so you can do the math and calculate. At some points, it's probably, I don't think it's increased, but around that amount. First single story, not going up. As you are going up, the rate changes, of course, increases.
That's small.
Yes, it becomes small.
Very small.
Yeah, Daniel, I see you've been doing a bit of calculations there. So tell us. I mean, there are people, young ones who are listening and they're asking themselves the question. So
yeah, so for us, I think I would have left the calculations for Nanekia to do. For us, we are looking at when we have built it. How much you can, because ours is on a rent-to-own, cities and habitats, ours is on a rent-to-own basis, where you sign up with some registration and then make monthly installments.
For how many years?
For 15 years. But then now we started with like, when you can move in, you can have access to the house at 20%. But now it's up to 30%. Then you can have access to the houses, your house, and then you continue to make the rest of the payments. Now for 2-bedroom, for instance, you'll be doing like 5,800 Ghana cedis monthly. Yeah.
5,800 cedis?
Yes. You know how we started?
No.
1,800 Ghana cedis.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes.
We used to talk about less than 2,000 cedis.
I'm telling you. And this is like 2.5 years, roughly 2.5 years.
So are those people still paying the same or now, or they have to pay this?
No, so those are doing like 200. They were the luckiest, or they are the luckiest. For those who signed up around 2021. They're getting it. So I think the maximum they are doing now is about 2,300, 2,500 a month.
Okay.
And they are just about getting their keys very soon. Right? Of course, people have started living in there already, so you can imagine. But for those who are coming now, these figures I'm giving you are 2024 figures.
Okay.
Revised rates.
5,300.
5,800 for 2-bedroom detached. And then the 3-bedroom, you'll be doing like 6,100. Detached, you'll be doing like 7,000. Of course, if you compare typical mortgage, there's no mortgage that you'll be doing this now. It's huge.
But Daniel, 5,800.
Right.
The man's salary
is 3,000.
Is 3,000.
Right.
It's not up to 5,000.
Right.
How's he going to pay that?
Yeah, so that is why you have to look out for other avenues. other ways. For instance, I was just giving you a hint, but since it's coming up, let me just raise the lid a bit.
Yes, tell us about
Okay.
it.
We have a product now which will be announcing very soon. The campaign is all going to be from this, this house. What we call it buy a portion, right?
Okay.
Buy a portion. So you are being given the opportunity to own jointly or solely up to 25%, 35% of a house or an apartment. And the amount involved is just like 180,000 Ghana cedis to own that percentage.
Okay.
So if, for instance, the three of us, the four of us, right, we have a house or we decide to build a house, we are contributing so much. Citizen Habitat is taking about 75% of it. And then the 30% or the 25% is broken down for the three of us to share. You're getting it. When we have completed the house, your earnings is coming out of rentals, and it's also coming out of the sale of it when we sell it. So the house can be sold like $80,000 US dollars, $75,000 US dollars, $85,000 US dollars. Right? Your earnings is coming out of that. And it's almost like double, about 75% earnings from that. That amount of money you can roll it onto. So within a space of about 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, you have a house. But you started with just 200,000 Ghana cedis or 180,000 Ghana cedis. That is, you started with getting 25% of that, or maybe 10% of that, or maybe 20% of that.
Okay.
But the details we'll talk about. This is just a hint. So
I'm sure
there are ways.
sure when we meet at the Habitat Fair.
Exactly.
This is marvelous. But can we have a come to Jesus moment here?
Tell me about that.
Cities and Habitats is doing their bit. They are doing their best. I mean, this thinking far. This is marvelous. This is so much thinking to solve a problem. And you and I know that even with that solution, it's still not accessible to a lot of Ghanaians.
Yeah.
So that is the problem. The problem is we need social housing. We are dealing with a currency that, and he told you, some people started at 2.5. Now, if you want to buy a 2-bedroom, you are talking about 5,000 something. Your salary is 3,000. This is not to say, in fact, what he's doing is cheap. I doubt they are making flying profits on anything. It's actually very, very good. But you still can't afford it. And that is why social housing exists. Or should exist. And unfortunately, this conversation ends up becoming a rant whenever it starts. Because it's too critical to not have active interventions from the state. Who should house your people? Why should the person who is making 3,000 cedis, can we also accept that we are not paying our people well in the first place? Why should this person be saddled with that? Leave this for the one who has reached the level and can afford to put the money, so that he doesn't have to do all this high thinking calculations just to serve the population who cannot afford.
Great.
We need a come to Jesus moment. Ghanaians, we need to come together and say, look, this is it. We are starting to sound like a broken record.
Okay. So this one, so they were asking, someone asked actually a question that says, can, the security man, for instance, because we're talking about 5,800, but you've made a point, because today building materials are very expensive. And that's where Akua comes in and talks about social housing. In fact, housing policy says affordable housing is where you spend not more than 30% of your income in rent or buying. So if you, for instance, you don't spend more than 30% of your income. Where 30% of your income cannot, the state comes in with a social housing scheme
That's right.
So the state actually has a role to play. Unfortunately, the state is not playing that role. But you've talked about buy a portion.
That's right.
You were also, and Anike was also talking about land, for instance, so saying 3 people can come together and buy land. For you, Citizen Habitat, I know you have land too. New Accra City.
Right.
Last year we were talking about 56,000 cedis for land. What's become of it this year? Or the dollar to you has shot it up?
It's up. And it's because they are serviced lands or service plots. Service in the sense that you're going to have, or you have electricity, you have roads.
Tarred roads or?
Tarred by the time that the place gets fully developed. But now when you come, we reasonably have improved the roads so you can access your site to, start your construction with power, electricity and all of that. So by the time the place gets reasonably developed, people have built and are moving in that sector of the site, because you are looking at about 500 acres. That's huge. Then you can bring in the roads development is in stages. Usually you do a sub-base, you do a base before they finish. So that's how we are doing it. Now the lands are like 90,000 Ghana cedis. If you want to do, you can have a 1-year plan. That's 110 Ghana cedis.
10,000.
110,000.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Ghana cedis, not dollars. So it's not even up to 8,000 US dollars. Right? Yes. And at the end of the day, we are still the cheapest or the lowest. I won't say the cheapest, but the lowest in the neighborhood. Looking at the service or the quality of site, the location, and the services that you're getting, we're still the lowest around. So that's how we're going. But you can always approach us. People have come with various needs. You look at how the person intends to pay. One would say that, okay, I cannot do monthly, I can do quarterly. If your second installment works, then we know that, of course, you can continue, because there are a lot of other services that, laterite, getting quality laterite to put out there before you even get some gravel, say grade 1, to smoothen it. It's not easy now. We used to buy it at 600, 400, 500 when we started. Now it's 2,000 plus.
Really?
Yes. So if you are providing these services like roads, electricity, the land won't go for the same. If someone is selling to you land at 7,000 Ghana cedis now, or even at 5,000 Ghana cedis to you now, ask where the location of the land is. Ask what services there are on the land or close to the land. Because you may buy that land only to realize that you are far away from the city. You are very, very far away. Yeah, so that's how good place like the New Accra City is.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, this morning we're joined by Daniel Ohene Aidoo, who is Project Manager, Cities and Habitat, and Akua Birmeh, who is Principal Architect, Archxenus Company. We're talking about how you can get a house and make it a home. But we've not even gotten to the home aspect, because getting the house itself is really where the issue is. Okay, so Daniel, let me just stay with you. You've talked about 90,000. That's for 100 by 70.
Yes, please.
But you have other ones.
Yes, we have very soon. In fact, that's virtually gone. Very soon we'll be doing 80 by 80, and for the same price. 80 by 80 for the same price. Less than 3 months. Yes.
People are buying all the 100 by 70.
Yes. No, I'm telling you, ours is the lowest. And the location, everything about it, you cannot come there and go back. Yeah, it's carefully planned with facilities. It's It's good. So those who know.
Those who know.
Those
I like
who
that. But I mean, the houses that you talk about, you've talked about a 2-bedroom.
Right.
That's 5,800.
Right.
Shock us some more with the 3 and 4 bedrooms.
Well, so we are not doing 4 bedrooms. We are doing villas. The villas come 3 bedrooms and then the 4 bedrooms. Those are like $250,000 USD. Yes. And those are very huge. I mean, very huge spaces and quality of finishing. You know, so it's not like the normal, you know, you would say terrace or bungalow type of houses that we are doing. The spaces are huge. I mean, you can have a whole bedroom that looks like this, you know, in the villa.
That's big.
That's big. Plus its own.
It is a villa.
Yes, plus its own closet. And the other, kitchen is huge, islands and all other stuff. It's great. I'm sure you might have seen some pictures. I think yesterday on JoyNews TV, some pictures were.
I think
flying.
so. I think so.
Yes. So those ones are. The target is for the middle or upper middle class, and of course our houses are. They are like. We do the houses on demand-driven basis. So you come, you sign up, you sign up, and then we start for you. That's how we do it. But very soon, some apartments, we have already begun some apartments that we're going to open it up to this buy a portion thing that we are bringing up on the market soon.
Let's wrap up with you, starting off with you, Daniel, because tomorrow we're starting the first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center under the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. Tell us, you know, what we can expect from you, Citizen Habitat.
Well, for this year, we still are giving the 50% discount on the registration, which is only 500 Ghana cedis. You know, so for patrons of this year's Habitat Fair, that's what you can expect. We would, once we roll out, by the time we are going on the main fair, the buy portion will be out.
Okay.
That is a breaker. I am sure that it's going to impact the industry so much, especially for those who are unable to and are contemplating how to even start. How to start. Should I get a land? Should I get a house? I have this small money. What can I do with it? You know, so patrons should expect some good stuff this year from Citizen Habitats.
Great. What would you say finally, Nanekia, as we wrap it up, for all those who are thinking, you know, they're concerned, I don't have money, I can't get it, what advice would you give them?
I think I appreciate that developers like Citizen Habitats are coming out with all these brilliant ways to support these people. So they should, of course, open themselves and expose themselves to some of these opportunities in the system. Like we said from the beginning, at the end, it will cost you money. And so you also, if that is a task ahead of you, if that's something you really want to do, then you work your livelihood around achieving this task, so that, like you said, it costs money to do funerals, it costs money to do parties, all kinds of things. You know, you save and you make your plans towards achieving this aim. And always work with a professional is very important.
Always work with a professional, very important. Thank you very much, Akua Birmeh, who is Principal Architect, Archxenus Company. And to you, Daniel Ohene Aidoo, Project Manager, Cities and Habitat. Of course, we'll meet tomorrow at the Achimota Retail Center. You must make sure you are there also, starting from tomorrow, Friday the 28th to Sunday 30th of June 2024, right from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.